Hey people, welcome to Top Cat's lair or lair whatever. Actually, it's not Top Cat's lair, it's Sydney. I'm in Sydney, guys. Um, yeah, I'm gonna get some better light. Boop, skidoop, round for ya. How you doing? How you doing? Hey. Um, I'm at Sydney Supernova and having a ball. I got to meet Nolan North and Troy Baker, um, Richard Dreyfuss, and Steve Amell. Steve Amell was down. I went to an amazing Steve Amell experience where I got to finally try his wine, Knocking Point. There was some charity auctions as well for, I think it's a group called Super Tees, where they make t-shirts specifically for kids who can't, like, who might have disabilities and can't get into shirts because we don't think about it because we're abled, but you know, but actually getting into a shirt is a feat uh, if you're not flexible, and so these people create shirts. I believe that people who aren't that flexible can get into, which is I love hearing about all these great great people like the open biotics, the people creating bionic arms for people, and now with the advent of 3D printing, it's just it's so cost effective now to create these things on the fly. Uh, so many people are creative, and the fact that Steve Amell is using his celebrity as a force for good where he can. He's got a fuck cancer campaign as well that he does every year. And it was just great to see him, and great to see all of them really. They're all really cool, very very sweet people, and I just want to talk about them for a moment. Steve Amell, amazing, great community, um, and he creates content on Facebook, and is very down to earth, very down to earth. He literally said, "I fucking love Australians." It's, you know, stuff that you probably wouldn't hear him say in a regular kind of interview. He's fairly, composed, but he said something very powerful about, it's been said before, but he said it quite well. That you got to be yourself. You got to be yourself, and if you don't say what you mean and speak your mind, then you won't ever end up where you need to be, which I think is just great. I think that's great. So many people pretending to be something else for fear of of being perceived as something wrong, or or having some other judgment coming at you. If you're not yourself, if you're not the truest version of yourself, and you're not saying what you think and what you mean, then how are you ever gonna know? Hey, what's the litmus test? What's the you gotta put your thoughts out there and test test if it holds water. Um, Possibly in society, but with also other individuals. I've met some really cool people as well in this con. I made Facebook friends with them because they were really good people, and just genuine people. I'm loving Sydney. Sydney, it's it's got some problems, but overall I've really enjoyed my stay here, and I've still got another day and a bit to hang out at this beautiful um, hotel. This lovely king size bed and awesome. Had some dinner. And just an amazing view, which is hard to see during the night. But Yeah. What else? Troy Baker. Troy Baker was great. I got to tell him a couple of things while he was signing. Basically, my tip, if there's anybody that you um, really want to just say a couple of things to, taking a photo with them isn't the best time to do it because it's limited time. But while they're signing something, there's like a period of time where you can give them a sentence or two, let them know the thing that you love best. Because they come down and it's as much like they get paid, sure, but they signing a bloody thing isn't really gonna fulfill them. They're actors, they're creators, and they would rather be working on the next project, and they would get paid for it too. But the reason they come to cons is to send their feelers out and see what resonates and see what the fans love. And I mean, Troy Baker's done so much stuff. I got him, however, to sign my infamous second son because everybody's Last of Us, everybody's Bioshock Infinite, you know, just on and on and on. The amount of games he's done, the Arkham games alone. I mean, he's played Batman in Telltale games as well, but he's played so many different characters in the Arkham games. Um, so what I said to him was, Infamous Second Son. When he turned it over, it's like, oh man, yeah, yeah. And I said, it was the launch title. It was the title that I first got when I got given my PS4 as a present, and I told him I was like, it was the game that like set the bar for me in terms of wow, this is what's possible with facial capture, and he was like, yes, yes, and he told me just when he got told about it, it was like when he was seeing the dailies basically back from them, and he said, "Is this gonna be a launch title?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Oh, just he was so," and I was like, I need a Troy Baker game that I finished as well, because Last of Us I have not finished. Neither have I finished Far Cry 4 or or Bioshock Infinite. I have them, and some I have only digitally, so not really worth him signing that. So the one that has his likeness and his voice and is kind of iconic for me, um, yeah, get him to sign that. And I quickly, before I left, I was like, I wanted to say something about like a smaller role that he did that really I thought he nailed. My favorite villain um, is actually Two Face. Um, just because from a young age watching the Batman animated series, um, Two Face is a kind of tragic figure. He's schizophrenic. There's no two ways about it. In that show, he has something wrong. He's got a split personality, and he doesn't you know and Batman's always trying to get through to him. And so that was something that I learned from that show because that show is like my guru growing up. Um, Batman animated series taught me bullies sometimes have issues beyond their control. Or they have issues at home, like abuse, that turns them into bullies. There's a lot of different reasons people become bullies. And so Two Face for me, I felt was a tragic figure, um, and I feel whenever it gets portrayed, it needs to have that level of you know the conflict, and I loved in the Dark Knight. Everybody said how great Heath Ledger was as the Joker. Dark Knight's Two Face was great. Similarly, I liked what Troy Baker did with Two-Face in Arkham City. He doesn't play him in Arkham Knight because he plays the Arkham Knight. Enough on his plate. He was one of the main villains. So somebody else took the reins, I think, of Two-Face, but did basically the same job as Troy Baker established in Arkham City. But yeah, I was able to throw that in. I was I know it's a small role, but Two-Face is one of my favorite villains, and I really like what you did with him in Arkham City. It's like, oh man, thank you. Yeah. Nolan North, I didn't get to tell him all the things I wanted to tell him. I wanted to tell him how my go-to for when I'm pissed off with games and I just want something to zen out on, I go back to Prince of Persia, the one that he did, which didn't hit off in sales department, so there wasn't a sequel. But it still is such a zen game. If you haven't played it, I recommend it. It might be hard to find, I guess. I don't know if you can find it on PlayStation Store, but for PS3, it is just a beautiful game, reminiscent of Myst, the Myst series, in terms of game like production design, but it also has this epic feel to it and just this Arabian Nights feel, but also kind of weirdly kind of alien-esque, like not the movies, just alien in terms of an alien planet almost feels like, and little references to the original Sands of Time trilogy, little jokes, in jokes for fans of that. I loved it. I love it, and it takes me back. But what I did say was, I'm a big fan of the Arkham series. And he goes, oh yes, Penguin, yes. Oh. And his Penguin voice is just top notch. I got him to sign my Uncharted trilogy. Another thing I didn't mention to him was Uncharted 1 is still like one of my favorites. Simply because it came first and it established such a great series and a great character, and the characters not just on their own, but how they related to each other. So good. But one of the things that shocked me with that game, similar to how Infamous Second Son really affected me in terms of, wow, this is what they can do with facial capture. With Uncharted 1, it was like, wow, this is what they can do with voice acting in a game, where it would predict what players would say. It was like, alright, okay, alright, let's go. Oh. And then if you were like, behind a wall, kind of ready to go, yeah, it would predict what I would say. I would say something and then Nathan Drake would say it. And I'm like, this game's reading my mind. I loved it. And I still love it. I still play it every now and then. I recently played through all the games, of which, both Troy Baker and Nolan North are part of the fourth game. Troy Baker's in the other game as well, the most recent Uncharted game, which doesn't have Nathan Drake in it, which is actually really good. If you haven't played it and you're an Uncharted fan, do yourself a favor and play it. It is so good, especially if you've played Part 4, because it's good sequel to that. But yeah, I did tell him that whenever I read Penguin in the comics, I can't help reading him without a Cockney accent. And he told me the story of how they kind of asked for Cockney, and he did one that was kind of too good, and they went, no, the voice acting coaches, they come from Rocksteady, I believe, over in the UK or So they're a UK studio. And they go, no. We don't want the sound. We want it to sound like somebody doing an accent, or sound like someone who wants to sound Cockney. He wants to sound. So he's someone who is like schooled over there, and they also in Arkham Knight make fun of the fact that he's of his accent, and which is fun. Arkham Knight's great because if you're fans of the games, by that stage you pick up on all their in jokes. So yeah. What else? Richard Dreyfuss, finally. Richard Dreyfuss was man, what a guy. What an amazing career. Mr. Holland's Opus. I got to tell him that's what started off with me. Fan of his. And then I worked backwards. 95, worked backwards to Jaws and Close Encounters, etc. And he said to me, well, you started with a good one. You started with a really good one. And, wow, yeah. His voice is so iconic. And when you hear it in person, it's just like, it transports you. It transports you in the way that hearing any actor with a distinctive voice transports you. You know, Sean Connery, etc. I'm a big fan of very distinctive voices of actors. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Christopher Lambert for that reason. I don't think so, you know. Anyway, I'll leave it there, but I'll catch you, hopefully, when I get back. On the Tomcats, Leia or Leia. Whatever. From Sydney, signing out.